Hi, hello, and thank you for your patience. Ooh, and welcome to City of Cards, turn 9. I believe that I need to do. No, not that. Don't know why this isn't working as intended. One wee moment. There we go. Okay. Thank you for your patience there. IRL has skewed things a wee bit in terms of my prep, so I'm hoping everything is going to work as intended. But here we are. Turn 9 of Season 1. You guys have been up to stuff. It's been exciting to read and investigate. There's been some scheming happening, both in character and out of character. Pardon me. And a humongous amount of assisting going on. So, seeing as it is part of the order in which we begin to show off what has happened, what happens in this turn, let's first of all roll for initiative. Here we go. Okay, Redcoats are number 2, so that means they're at the bottom end. The Patriots are at number 5. The group are above them, though, at number 8. The Custodians have rolled 12, so does that mean they rolled a 10 and then they added 2? Hot damn. The Custodians blitzing ahead with their initiative. The Knights jointly at 2. And the Gemini League above the Patriots but below the group. With the Boston Camarilla taking the lead in NPC factions. Oh no, my apologies. That was actually the Society of St. Leopold taking the lead in NPC factions. But First Light is falling behind. So, going to roll 2d6s. Left is going to be the Redcoats, right is going to be the Knights. Whoever gets the higher number goes first in that order. 5 by the Redcoats, 4 by the Knights. Yeah, we've had some scheming going on. We've had the beginnings. Not quite yet the introduction of a new character, but the beginnings of a new character beginning to peek through. We've had advice being sought out by Kindred going to a particular set of, let us say, academic kind of Kindred in the city. Sought out by not just one, but 2 of the coteries in the city. We've had some drinks be had, some roller skating be done. And of course, we've had the beginnings, but not the conclusion, of a duel between 2 rival camps. Yeah. It's been exciting to read. It's been exciting to prepare for this turn because, as I'm sure you're all aware, some things get revealed at this particular... what's the word am I looking for? At this particular stage of the season. in terms of the advisory bill. Yeah, the custodians do have the markets cornered. I am catching up on the chat as you guys catch up with me. Yes, they do. They really do. The custodians have gotten 2 of the courier service drop-off points under their sway, so they get their information, they get their messages passed around. I am looking forward to it, Amber. I know things have been delayed a little bit, but I am incredibly excited to see the duel take place. But yeah, with the initiative worked out, the next stage of our process is to go through the various assists, and by giddy ant are there a lot of assists this turn. So first things first, there's an assist between the Redcoats and the Patriots, where the Redcoats are sending over a coin to the Patriots. Ooh, the Patriots are currently a small faction sheet. Interesting. 2 factions that have not really had much in the way of cooperation thus far into the game. Not necessarily in the way of antagonization as well. So it'll be curious to see what that is all about. And we have another assist from the Redcoats. This time to someone they've been antagonizing this game a little bit. To the Boston Camarilla, which brings them up from -2 to -1, which means that their status as rivals have been improved a little bit. That is another coin going from one faction sheet to another. Now, they don't have the coin in the bank, I'm pretty sure, but they do generate that coin. So I'm going to need that you guys to remind me not to give the coin, or to, in theory, give the coin and then remove the coin, because that coin has gone to the Boston Camarilla, filling up their vaults. And again, our third status change this turn is between the Custodians and the Patriots. It's an assist as well, which brings us not our first alliance, but our first alliance between player factions for the Custodians and the Patriots. 2 factions that have been cooperating for quite a fair bit this game. So yeah, it's interesting to see the first green line on the board. Well, not the first green line on the board. That was between our 2 SI folks, but for our kindreds to be cooperating. And they're not the only ones cooperating this turn, for the Knights are also assisting the Boston Camarilla, being loyal subjects, very supportive subjects, in providing an assist to the Boston Camarilla as well. Which gets us another green line. We're getting a couple of green lines on this status map. How lovely. Some alliances. You're filing your tax forms properly. Yes, the Redcoats. Getting that coin in, and let us smooth things over, as things have been troublesome, let's say, between those two, between the government and the Redcoats. Right. We've done our statuses. Now, we must move on to the factions themselves. The Custodians have been going about the place, making deals, making cooperation, making schemes, and also just relaxing and skating. So yeah. Skating with friends, let's say that. There is a fair bit of Custodian RP over the past couple of months, which has been an absolute delight to read. So I do highly encourage you guys to have a little nosy at that if you can and have not yet. But for the resources for the Custodians, they gain a coin from the SOA power station, and they gain an XP for the War Memorial Recreation Center. Their first action being the assist action that they performed, but their second action is to resolve the event at Rivermark Apartments. So let us have a nosy at the event at Rivermark Apartments over here. Very nice of it. Over here, yes. It is a mortal crime event, which is occurring at this domain, and it requires a physical roll to resolve. First light are present on the scene, and if it is resolved, it will yield 2 coin. I'm just double checking to see. Yep, no coin being spent on any of these actions. So we are just rolling a flat physical for the Custodians, which is 1 die. Let us see how they do. That's a 3, which means they gain 2 contempt if I am correct, and I'm pretty sure I am. 1 to 3, the reward, and 2 contempt for completing such an event. That puts them up at 6 contempt on their tracker, but it rewards them 2 coin, filling up their vaults and making the Custodians quite wealthy. And it removes, in particular though, what the main desire, I believe, of this, it removes this event. For this event, if it didn't go resolved, would increase the scrutiny of this domain by 1, and as can be seen, the scrutiny on Rivermark's apartment is quite up there. And that would explain why the third action, yes, third action for the Custodians, is for their Cambridge Easy Living Real Estate cohort. Their lawyers, their real estate lawyers at their disposal are going to perform a reduced scrutiny action, which means because it is a cohort, they roll tiered instead of rolling whatever stat is associated with the action, usually because it's a cohort. But in order to do so, a cohort requires that the faction spend 1 coin. So they're going to spend 1 coin. They're going to roll 1 die in order to reduce the scrutiny. Isn't it great? It's such an easy living. How inconspicuous. Now, no bonus die, just a tier roll. That's another 3, which means they do, in fact, reduce the scrutiny by 1, if I'm again correct. Yep, 1 to 3, they reduce it by 1, which means that the Rivermark Apartments are not at the volatile stage of, not quite volatile, still close, but not quite. Their lawyers have gone in, they've had a little nose around, they've checked in and kind of like smoothed over any any kindred citizen activity to make sure that it's all legal and within lines, and assisted out to make sure this SI scrutiny over here isn't as potent. Indeed, they've done a little bit of damage control, a little bit of maintenance of the domain. So we are now at everyone's favorite stage, and that is of course entanglements. For we have 6, I think, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 contempt, which puts us at the 6+ entanglement bracket.
let us find out what the entanglements are for all this maintenance that they have done for the Masquerade. Gain 2 contempt and +1 harm to a cohort. Ooh. Ooh, I wonder what happened to your guys' lawyers. Maybe those kindred citizens were a wee bit peeved that the custodians felt that they had to get involved in their affairs or something. For this isn't technically custodians' domain, but they are sending their ghouls or their cohort, I don't know if it's ghouls, but I do know it's a shell company. Well, not shell. It's an actual real estate company. It's real estate lawyers. They're just doing some paperwork to cover up some non-legal things going on. Not so easy living. Not so easy. No, words. Not so easy living. No, indeed. They are indeed weak. And this is the first time we've had a cohort be harmed by entanglements on such. So I will actually scroll down to harm and healing for the cohorts and show you what, pardon me, that actually means for if cohorts may be harmed as part of their actions or through entanglements, yes. And this comes in 4 levels of increasing severity. So every time you gain a harm, or if you gain 2 harm, you go up 2 levels, etc. You increase the state of harm that you have. And we are currently at weak for the easy living real estate lawyers, which forces them +1 coin to perform an action, which means you have to spend 2 coins for them to perform an action instead of just 1 coin. In order to recover this, though, there is a action wholly dedicated to it called the recover action, and then this action is quite simple. It reduces, I really should rephrase it, reduces a target cohort's harm by 1. Target basically means whichever one you outright declare and select. So it reduces the target's cohort by 1. Indeed. There we go. Custodians getting in on neutral kindred's business. Probably, I imagine. Kindred of Boston. Your Honor, I simply do not vibe with the law. Indeed. 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 But yes, custodians getting involved with kindred citizens, neutral kindred's business, and they're throwing their arms in complaint to being like, get out of here, what are you doing? I got this handled. I don't need your... I mean, it's very debatable if they had it handled with 7 scrutiny. But yeah. Indeed. Spicy, spicy. Now, next in line is the group. And the group have with us a gorgeous set of narrative. But I'm going to quickly do their passives, and I quickly temper what I've done here is edited this is to be the total values, because I will mention here they get 2 long-term project ticks to their long-term project action with their clock, which I believe is going to be this one. That's what I have in my things over here in my ledger. But also they have the Legacy Nightclub, which reduces the contempt they have per turn. But they also have Hancock Tower, which gives them 1 contempt per turn. So that cancels each other out, hence why there's no contempt value listed here. But the group have for us a lovely, 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 lovely narrative, which I shall read out. Because I didn't mention in the summary, the group have had to make interesting choices, let's say, in the past and in the present. I highly recommend reading Crossroads in the Dark if you want to have a little peek. The course is set All doubts, all hesitation have been disposed of, and after much reflection, much research, much introspection, Adonamo has been knocked over, and the rest cannot be set up again. A highly trained team, all kind, but one set about on an inside job, being the hand that ticks while William, ever the politician, feeds the narrative and comforts the worried minds of the exact people he robbed. Synergy International remains a problem, but the clock ticks in William's favour, approaching the inevitable conclusion. Hey, I see what you did there. The clock ticks in William's favour. Clever little mechanical terms sneaking into your narrative. I love that. That's brilliant. Yes, the group are in a unique position with the long-term project domains that they possess that give them passive long-term project ticks. Meaning that their long-term projects can go passively quite quickly. And they have quite the means of moving resources and getting projects done. So, we are going to perform their first action, which is to resolve the event at Southampton Yard. Now, this event at Southampton Yard is over here. It is... that is... not quite correct. It shouldn't be a Kind Politics event. I'm quickly going to make a quick reference to the Discord, because I'm pretty sure I have mistyped that in. It shouldn't be a Kind Politics event. It should be a mortal crime. It is a mortal crime. You can quickly reference the Discord if you want to double check me, but it's the second one down from the top. I'm going to just quickly add that, so internal referencing. But I have listed that incorrectly. And even the reward, I have absolutely incorrectly listed this event over here, because even the reward and who is present is all incorrect and wrong. Coin and 3 XP. Giddy Ant, I have failed you this time. I greatly apologize. And there is none present on the scene. There is no Boston Camarilla. Yes, that just so you guys know, the order in which I do these is I do the graphic that you see at the end of each turn for the next turn, and then I post in the Discord events board channel. That is, if you have a contradiction between that screen and these events listed on the map, go according to the events listed on the graphics. They are the correct ones, whereas the events on the map, as we have just discovered, if I have not completely successfully done my job, can have errors in them occasionally. And thankfully though, I think we've gone 9 turns thus far where I haven't had an error in the events, and this is the first one. So 1, 2, miss error. 8 to one and only JJ, myself. 8 to me. So, the event they are resolving is a mortal crime event requiring a mental roll. There is none present on the scene, and if this event is resolved, it will yield coin, and 3 XP. Okay, let us roll to see how they do. So, mental, they have 2 dots in mental. You're not spending any coin to increase for a bonus. So no bonus die. That is a crit. Holy cow. This proxy job, this crew that William has put together to perform this robbery goes insanely well. Insanely well. So, because they get a crit, they get a reward, and they also get a free XP. So not only is that 3 XP, that is more XP that they get this for resolving this, and they gain no contempt. Holy event, William. Indeed, William has gone above and beyond in pulling that robbery off. The whoever gets robbed. In fact, I'll slip a wee bit. You can see it because it's in the RP. The Irish mobsters who were present here in Southampton Yard have been robbed by William, but the Irish mobsters, because of this insane crit, have no clue whatsoever who robbed them. They didn't even notice it was happening before they showed up, and they were like, "Where's all our stuff?" and William and the group have gotten away scot-free. Absolutely incredible. And because that was a mortal crime event, that's a tick towards their immortal infamy, which hasn't had a tick thus far, which means I'm going to go to their faction objectives, and I'm going to read out the narrative associated with this. What this objective is. What is it that what William's trying to do? A resolution to a crime taking place looks different to everyone, depending on your stance. For police, resolution looks like a poor desperate man in handcuffs, perhaps an accomplice shot dead, bleeding out in the streets or behind the counter of a convenience store. To many kindred, resolution only becomes important if it's on their turf, feeding off robbers or arsonists when it comes close to damaging their haven or discovering where they feed. For the group, however, resolution looks like a gun in the face and a hand in the register, an armoured truck rerouted out of the city, so when the cops find it, the car is gutted with no wheels, sitting on cinder blocks under a bridge with the money long, long gone. Indeed, the group's ambition is to be the pinnacle of mortal crime in the city. The group are quite known for their criminal their business enterprise, not criminal, my apologies, their business enterprise, as it were, and their off-books work that they do, and their ambition, of course, with this objective is to have an immortal infamy within Boston and the criminal world as the top dogs. And absolutely, this event, this robbery against Irish mobsters, hot damn, that is going to go a long way, as in one tick, but a long way into establishing a particular reputation. Now, what is the second action? That was already impressive, but wait, there's more. They are performing a long-term project on their Investigate Synergy International. Yes, they are full speed ahead in performing this. It is a mental role, investigating the Syndicate, my apologies, Synergy International. I have been swapping the word out there, I think. Synergy International. Yes, the guy, the organization that has actually approached William and hired them to do that job, as you saw. So yeah, I feel like the Irish mob isn't even mad. They're just like, you know what? They earned it. Well, see, the way I like to interpret this is that the Irish mob have no clue. They didn't even see the robbery happen. They didn't even see it take place. But yeah, I highly recommend, by the way, you read Crossroads in the Dark to get a lot of context as to what is happening, narratively speaking. Because yeah, Williams had a lot of stress, let's say. So, let us see how William and the group does in investigating the Synergy International. It's a standard effect. I feel like Syndicate International would be for a name for a secret organization. Yes, I agree. Syndicate kind of would, yeah, absolutely. That would be very much correct. Okay, let's see. 3-3. So that is one tick. One tick, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, because it is a long-term project. Yeah, because when you do a clock-based action, 1 to 3 is one tick. Not quite finished. That will be finished, and it will mean that only one of the tick has to go into this clock, and the other tick can go somewhere else. But not quite finished. Not quite fully unearthing the secrets of the Synergy International, not the Syndicate International, the Synergy International. Not quite yet. But yes, that brings us to everybody's favourite stage of the game, Entanglements, which is still at 3 because of a flawless robbery, a perfect heist, as it were, performed by the group. So the bracket is 0-3. Let us see what their entanglements are. It is Game 1 Contempt. From the Kindred Society. A little bit, for whatever reason, the group is just getting on people's nerves. Just a tiny bit. Just a tiny bit. Now, the Gemini League. The Gemini League have been giving a lot of advice to other coteries. 2 scenes, in fact, in which people came to a particular library over at in the Winthrop neighborhood. Indeed, their own Oceans movie. Absolutely. I mean, I'm sure there's quite the regular theatrical releases of their escapades that could be created. But yes, quite a few people have approached the librarian and the academics of the Gemini League for advice. A lot of querying going on. Indeed. So let us get their resources figured out. That's 1 XP and 1 coin. And their first action is to reduce contempt. And their narrative associated with that action is there is a spectre haunting the Gemini. Not the fun kind, though. Yes, there is. There's a lot of contempt happening, but that little narrative may have a bit of a double meaning there. If you've been reading some Gemini League scenes, some hauntings occurring, plural. That's correct. One that is semi known by the rest of the city. Another that has yet to be brought to the attention to anyone but one. So, yeah, stuff going on. Yeah, I would wonder, is there a fun kind of spectre? Well, let us reduce the contempt and find out, I guess. For they are just doing a regular reduced contempt action. They have 1 social. So rolling 1 die. And that is what a long ass time to roll a 1. Meaning we're reducing contempt by 1. Now, their second action is to reduce scrutiny at the Giovanni building. Yes, the Giovanni building. The building notorious for weird feelings and hair standing up on your wrist or skin as you walk past it. And a history of a once dominant clan in the city. No longer, though, since the Six State War. They vacated quite a while ago. So, they are reducing scrutiny at said building. And their narrative is, this is the fun kind of spectre. I mean, there's a lot of laughter involved. But I don't know don't know if I fully agree with that sentiment. They are reducing scrutiny at that building, which is, yes, a wise move. It's getting high and always gaining scrutiny in the background. And that is a mental roll, which means they roll 2 dice. That's a 4, so they reduce the scrutiny by 2. So that goes from 6 to 4. Hey presto. We are now at entanglements, which puts us at 6 entanglements, which puts us in the 6th bracket. Yes, the Gemini League, although people are going to them, although the coteries, the faction coteries that are going to them, the general population are not exactly fond. The general kindred population, the non-aligned kindred, they're just regular citizens, are not necessarily fond of the Gemini League. So let's see. Oh god. Gain 3 scrutiny to a domain. Now this could go very wrong, depending where this lands. So, let us find out where this 3 scrutiny is going to go. It is a d6 that we roll. As far as I'm aware, I don't think there is more than 6 Gemini League domains. So, here it is. Yeah, oh no is the right sentiment. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let us see, as I gulp, where this lands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 5. In the Winthrop Yacht Club. Whew. Okay. Right. 5 plus 3. Gain 3 scrutiny. 5 plus 3 is in fact 8. Which means that this domain goes under investigation. The knocking paid off. Knocks viciously on wood. Indeed. The knocking paid off in one regard, as it didn't go to a particular vaulted domain, but the scrutiny at the Winthrop Yacht Club has quite simply gotten out of hand, and the SI are now... You take back your welcome. Yeah. The SI are now investigating. They're hearing particular speculative rumors about the yacht clubs in Winthrop, and they're going, we're going to have to investigate these to see if there's some nighttime shenanigans occurring over here. So that's fun. That's very fun. Too many kindred showing up on the shore? Maybe. But yeah, there you go. Spicy. Oh, not quite fun. Yeah, so that does mean that not the Dween Winthrop House, the Winthrop Yacht Clubs are no longer under the possession of the Gemini League. And the 2 SI factions will gain clocks, which I will add now to investigate between the yacht club. Winthrop Yacht Club. I think that's how you spell Winthrop. Yeah, that is how you spell Winthrop. Dang. That is something. Yes. It is a tricky task spinning all the plates you need to spin in order to stay on top of all the scrutiny. And the more domain you have, the more plates you got to spin. It's not an easy job holding domain. And the SI are ever vigilant, looking for single cracks to exploit in the Masquerade's chainmail. Now we move on to the Patriots, who gain 1 rep. Ooh, getting close. Gain 1 XP. Ooh, getting close. And their first action is to perform a claim domain action on the Massachusetts General Hospital. And that is over here. Lovely little hospital. Quite a sophisticated hospital. Pardon me. Seem to have a lot of air trapped in my stomach today. I apologize for that. So, I'm double checking. The claim domain action is a tier roll, yes. But they are indeed getting an assist from the custodians to grant them an extra die. So, let us see how they do. It's going to be... That's a 5. It's a 4-tick clock. I should probably write this down. Claim domain Massachusetts. If I spell it right. General Hospital. Perfect. Ooh. There we go. So, a 5 is 2 ticks. That is halfway through. And their second action is to do another claim domain action. This time, spending 2 coin for bonus, but they only have the 1 coin. Are they supposed to have 2 coin? Let me double check something. Because they've run here to spend 2 coin. They definitely gained 1 coin from the red coast, that's fair. But no, they didn't start the game with coin. And they have no coin generation, as it were. Yes, there's no coin generation, because yeah, it costs 2 coin to get the bonus. So I'm afraid that they're only going to be able to roll 1 die here, even though they definitely did say that, but I'm not seeing where they get the second coin from. Just checking my assists. Yeah, 1 assist was a die by the custodians, and the other assist was a single coin from the... Yeah. So, unfortunately, you're only going to be able to roll one die for that. Do they think... Yeah, I potentially looked at that, but they also did... they did write down that they get an extra die from the custodians. So, and the custodians also wrote giving an extra die. Yeah. So, they are rolling 1 die still. A die is not nothing. It's better than 0 dice. And that's a 3, so that's 1 tick. We are 1 tick away from claiming the Massachusetts General Hospital. And that leads us to the final stage of entanglements. We are at 7 contempt, which means we're in the 6+ bracket. A lot of 6+ rolling here for entanglements. Let's see what happens. Lose shun level +1 coin. Or lose sway over a Primogen. You don't have sway over a Primogen, so use contempt 4/5 roll entanglements if non-applicable, which it is. So we're going to go to the entanglements and check that one. I'm pretty sure I know which one, but I want to check. Because it's lose sway over a Primogen, and the Primogen... No, none of our Primogen are swayed by any of the factions. We are going to do contempt 4/5. Use contempt 4/5, roll 6, if not applicable. Alright, pay shun level coin +1 to the lowest status faction or -1 status with that faction. Well, this is where your coin is going, because you didn't spend that coin because you didn't have the 2 coin. So who is your lower? Who are you paying the money to? The group. I guess the group somehow got a hold of coin as well from the Patriots. Not only did they get money from the Irish, they got money from the Patriots. How nice of the Patriots. There you go. Did the group rob you, Patriots? Did you have to pay some sort of fee? I wonder what occurred there. Now, we move on to the Redcoats, who have written out a lovely little bit. My plan all along. Was it Tuanoni JJ? Was your plan all along for the money to end up in the group's hands? Interesting. Fascinating. Now, the Redcoats did 2 assist actions, and they've written us a lovely little set of narrative to explain what is going on. Let's read it here. I'm filled neither with a desire for clarity and meaning within a world and condition that offers neither. The past month, the Redcoats have been hushed, only the occasional meetings with their allies marking the most exciting of their activities. Sir Morris, having engaged in deep contemplation, self-reflection, set forth plans to show his reverence to the Prince of Boston and his respect to the authority of the Ivory Tower, in a detailed letter explaining his action in a tone of humble acceptance. The letter signed off with the more incompetent one feels, the more eager he is to fight, and I was plagued with incompetence. Very well. So, they gained 1 coin, but they lost that coin, giving it to the Boston Camarilla, as we did earlier. And their first action was indeed to give that coin to the Camarilla, and their narrative goeth thusly, to explain that. The Redcoats would offer the Boston Camarilla the entirety of the Redcoats' monthly profits as a symbolic and financial representation that everything he owed or could ever gain was dedicated to the betterment of the Camarilla. Indeed. And their second action to assist the Patriots in giving them a coin is explained thusly. While the eyes on the Redcoats were rightfully preoccupied with concern over their response to the Camarilla, a quiet arrangement was handled by proxies. The details of it are known only to 2 parties, and the existence of such an arrangement is unannounced and only suspectable by the closest investigators of the Redcoats' activities. What this could mean for the relationship between the 2 coteries was unknown. The only thing that was for certain was that the Redcoats' diplomatic machine was awake and quietly at work, while the face of the coterie was displaying respectful concession. Be careful saying that when entanglements in roll. I have a good feeling about my rolls this turn. Yes, for the redcoats are only making a single roll this turn. Knocks on wood. Yeah, I would knock on wood. That is a advisable action, because indeed the redcoats are making a single roll this turn, and that roll is their entanglements. They have 5 contempt, which means they're in the 4/5 contempt bracket. Let us see what occurs. They gain 2 contempt. Not the worst, not necessarily tremendously awful. Puts them up a bracket of entanglements, but that's next month's problem. For this month is over for the redcoats. And we move on to everyone's favourite, the knights. Everyone's mischievous and the most... What word am I looking for? We're going to go with Festival of Coteries. The Knights. They gain 1 XP. They gain 1 coin. They lose 1 contempt. And they gain 1 tick to the Jewel of King and Queen's faction ability clock thing. Favorite? Such kindness. Just the most fits them pretty well. Yeah, no, that's pretty fair. That's pretty fair. Yeah, I'm feeling favorable towards the Knights, and that might be revealed later on today. For the Knights, his first action is to offer their assist towards the Boston Camarilla, which we saw earlier, and that is providing a die. We wonder what that action may foretell. But also their second action is to disrupt the investigation, the First Light investigation into the combat zone. And indeed, because the Knights have the faction ability invaluable, let's have a little scroll down to that faction ability and read the fluff surrounding it. The Knights have always served the crown in a variety of ways. Even in their modern insanity, one cannot argue that their efforts against the Second Inquisition are a boon to the kindred of Boston. I'm sorry, I just need to clear my throat. Is that right, Turnoni JJ? Did you just need to clear your throat? Yeah, they are indeed invaluable. When they perform the disrupt investigation, they gain -2 contempt. So, seeing as they're performing a disrupt investigation, I see it fit to follow that faction ability and remove 2 contempt from their track, because that is indeed their faction ability. They are invaluable. And let us see how they do at interfering with the investigation of the First Light. Reduce ticks on the targeted thing and receive scrutiny on a pre-declared domain. That pre-declared domain is listed here as City Hall. So, let us see. They rolled here. How well did they do? That's a 3. That is a 3. So, they remove 1 tick and they gain 2 scrutiny to City Hall. The people would agree, I think, says Emmer, representative player of the Knights. So, a 3 results in 1 tick being removed from the investigation clock. I don't see the First Light pulling off their investigation. They've had quite significant interference, and 2 scrutiny being added to the City Hall as their actions to pull away investigation brings more heat, as it were, to Knight Domain. And that brings us to their entanglements. Not the First Light, not yet, but the Knights, who are sitting on 1 contempt. Oh, interesting. That says heat and wanted, as opposed to what the others say, contempt and shun. I need to fix that. And I will do that. I will do that. I will do that post-stream. But yes, we are sitting at 0 to 3 contempt bracket. Let us see what occurs. They gain 1 contempt. Okay. There's still some contempt for their action. Not nearly as much, but still a tiny bit. And that brings us to an end to our... Oh, shit, has been like that the whole time? My grave apologies to the knights. You guys have been missing out on fancy words and fancy vernacular. I apologize. I will strive to fix that post-stream. Apologies that I never noticed that. But we move on to the first of the NPC factions, the Society of St. Leopold. Let us have a nosy. First of all, I'm going to increase their timer, because this is the last turn that they would have had the opportunity to perform a combat zone investigation. A bit stuck in the past. Yeah. Now, the narrative for the Society of St. Leopold. Not necessarily a protest or a demonstration in the public sense, but a gathering nonetheless. An Easter fair, funded by the Catholic organizations, was hosted over the holiday on the Boston Common grounds. It is largely innocent to mortal eyes, if a bit overt to some, but to the kindred, it is something that makes everyone a little uneasy, especially to the group who claim ownership over said domain. Yes, the Society of St. Leopold, who have no passive income, are performing the Resolve event action at the Boston Common. I am going to check the events to make sure that this is indeed the right listed event. I'm pretty sure it is. Yep, it is indeed. So the Boston Common event is a kind politics event at this domain, requiring a physical role. The Society of St. Leopold is indeed present on the scene, and they are also resolving the scene, and will yield 1 coin and 2 reps. So I'm going to, first of all, give them their 1 coin and their 2 rep, and perform a physical roll to see how well they do. They roll a 4, which means that they get 1 contempt. Yep, they get the reward and 1 contempt. But also, probably the most important, is that they are performing an event on the group's domain. However, they are not going to pay the 1 coin fine to maintain the status with the group. So, the status between the Society of St. Leopold and the group goes down by 1. Now let us see the entanglements. There's a lot of kindred hatred for the Society of St. Leopold, which is fair enough. So we are at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 contempt. Let us see. They're going to gain 3 scrutiny to a domain, unfortunately. The Society of St. Leopold have no domain to gain scrutiny. Quite fortunate for them. Which means we move on. How rude of them, indeed. How rude of these people to celebrate their Easter holiday. How dare they? They can't do that. They can't celebrate a holiday. How dare they? How dare they? We move on to the Boston Camarilla. The government, everyone's favorite government in Boston. They can't gain 1 coin because they don't have the vaults to store it. 1JJ, what happens if they max out their contempt bar? That's a good question. Seeing as they are at max shunned level. I want to say nothing happens, but because Shun level 4 is already quite bad in terms of Shun level effects. I will think about that. I will think about if there's anything special that happens. If there is, I might reduce it, because the idea was that the Second Inquisition factions are Shun level. In normal rules, that's a faction death, but in ours, yeah. See, like, Shun level, like, as opposed to Wanted level, it's involved in like heat and like government, or in vampire terms, hunter attention. But in our little homebrew rules of this game in City of Cards, Contempt and Shunned is supposed to represent kindred opinion of the faction. So I wonder. I will think about that. I will think about that. Yeah. All right, we move on to the Boston Camarilla, we've done their passive gains, and their narrative for this turn. Sir Humphrey made a bold move in Congress this spring, and no such display goes without notice from the herald charged with hosting these sessions. Sir Maurice would be invited to the Prince's Palace on an inconspicuous Thursday night. Of course, people will talk, as everyone knows. One only takes the elevator up to 54 for one of few reasons. Without official word from the Ivory Tower, though, except the gossip to be sparingly shared by Cameron Vinnick. Kindred speculation will not be pretty upon the Redcoats, as it is often the case that it is that which goes without say. My apologies. As it is often the case that goes without. I have. Let me figure out what my dyslexia was trying to write when I wrote this. As it is often the case, that which goes without saying can be the most damning. To translate, if that didn't make any sense, because I think what past me meant by that last statement is that which isn't clarified leaves room for filling in the blanks, and sometimes, well, the way you fill in the blanks, that it could be worse than what could actually be specified. Inconspicuous Thursday nights are the most dangerous of nights. Indeed, indeed they are. So, what does this mean for mechanical sense? Well, the Boston Camarilla are performing a humiliate rival action, of course, targeting the Redcoats. Now, humiliate rival actions. They can only target factions in which you have the rival status with. Because you choose your actions before seeing what other people's actions are, and because assist actions always occur at the start of the turn in terms of the effect status, and they move coin before anything else happens in the turn. If a faction has put in a humiliate rival as one of their actions, and you were rivals at the start of the turn, you can still do the humiliate rivals action as like the last act before relationships were improved that month, thinking of them happening in parallel to one another. If only I could have predicted this. I wonder why maybe you gave them the monthly profits. This is fair. Yeah, I figured it was fair. Not only for the Boston Camarilla to do this action, but also for players who would otherwise lose an action outright if this occurred between two players. if this scenario occurred between two players. So, the Boston Camarilla are performing the Humiliate Rival action against the Redcoats, and they are targeting the 2 rep. So, the Humiliate Rival action, they are doing the first option, which is 2 rep, which means they roll a physical action, and they steal those resources from the target rival action and gain contempt and XP based on the result. And for a matter of fact, the assist in which the Knights provided, which has now given the Boston Camarilla and the Knights official allyship, is in fact contributing a dice to this roll, which is very fair and nice of the Knights to do. Hence, maybe why there's a bit of ST. If the ST is the Prince is definitely looking favorably upon the Knights here. Now, bonus die, which means they are rolling 2 dice, really taking me for all I am worth. Well, all your reputation is worth, let's say. Well, but it wasn't like the summoning has not necessarily had the most one-sided opinion, let's say. You still lose your rep, and the Boston Camarilla gains that rep in return and steals it from you. But because they rolled the largest number as a 3, they gain the resources. They only gain 1 XP, but they gain 3 contempt. And that puts them from the 0 to 3 bracket all the way up to the 6+ bracket of contempt. And also gives them 1 XP. Right? Yep, 1 XP. Which I haven't decided what they're advancing. So I will make that decision and inform you what the Boston Camarilla do with their advance. In terms of their what they unlock with their XP. Which one of these options they go for. Interesting. It didn't occur to me that might happen. Yeah, of course. Maybe it's because the people of Boston agree with Sir Morris, Tuanoti JJ suggests. Or they dislike them more than they dislike me. Yes, indeed. So, the act wasn't necessarily the most one-sided opinion. So, yeah. Let us see how the entanglements for this action, what the consequences are. Okay, gain +3 scrutiny to a domain. Now, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And we are going to /R 1D as I had sneakily copied it. 1D4. 1, 2, 3, 4. That didn't work. I could just go over here. I will click this button. It's a 2. 1, 2. And it makes the most sense. It's not very good. But it's 1 Dalton itself which has gained the scrutiny. I was really hoping it would be pay 1 coin to the lowest satisfaction. If only. If only. To an only JJ. But, probably concerning for nearly every kindred in the city, but scrutiny into the Ivory Tower itself. The Prince's Palace has gained a wee bit. Not good. Not good at all. But speaking of Second Inquisition, they have one final roll that they can make in order to complete their investigation and then gain control of the combat zone. And in order to do that, they need to get 5 ticks. Because you guys have kept on getting in the way of it. It is a mental roll that they roll. I am just going to pull up the rules so you can see as a quick reference, just so you know. They roll mental. And yes, it is the final turn in which they get to do this. They roll mental. They do roll 2 dice. Let us see if they roll a crit. If they roll a crit, this be insane. Because you guys would have put so much effort. And the first light would have been hindered so much. I'm putting so much hype into this. Nope. It's a good roll. It's 2 ticks. But they've ran out of time. And sadly, to I'm sure all your guys' great disappointment, it's definitely to my disappointment, the combat zone state of investigation is no more. And the Second Inquisition has not found anything and have moved on. Moved on, actually, to Winthrop Yacht Club. Just as one investigation ends, it seems another one begins. For the SI are never, ever done. We are at 2 contempt, which means we're in the 0 to 3 contempt bracket. Let us see what the entanglements are. They gain 1 contempt. Closing that out. That is the final of the... Next time, lads. Next time, yes. The Winthrop Yacht Club. Next time. That is exactly the hope for the SI is next time. Because 3rd time is the charm. This would be the 3rd. The first was Garment District. The 2nd was the combat zone. 3rd time's the charm. Don't they ever take holidays? No! Why would you ever want to take a holiday when the vampires themselves probably don't take holidays? I don't think... Do vampires take holidays? Have you ever heard of a kindred? Their problem is their holidays are working. That's a good way of putting it, Ever. That's a good way of putting it. Now, we are touching base with the final stages of this stream. For I have to tell you what the events are. So turn 10 events are, as I pull it up on my screen so I can see it, because you guys can see it, but I can't see it. A masquerade breach at Boston Fire Department, giving you 1 coin. A kindred dispute event at Santar Pios, giving 1 coin and 1 XP. A decree enforcement event at Winthrop Yacht Clubs. Well, there's a lot going in there on Winthrop Yacht Clubs. The Society of St. Leopold is there. Yeah, that makes sense. And a cult curiosity event at the Fort Independence. That actually gives you a major boon, which is a reduced contempt and a contempt conflict action. Another occult curiosity event occurring at Symphony Hall. A decree enforcement event at Pro Courier. An occult curiosity event at Carson Beach. A kindred dispute at Funway Marketplace. An occult curiosity event at the Spalding Rehabilitation Hospital. I don't think I said that word correctly, but that's okay. I'm going to do the daily ticks of scrutiny for each of those 2 domains that have that negative, so you guys have a visual reminder and can visually see where the scrutiny is at both of these domains. And the final thing I have to share with you guys is, of course, to declare the bill that is going to happen in summer, in 2025 summer congressional session. Let us read the narrative and then reveal the bill. The debate has always been there in the background, but thanks to the Redcoats' bombastic display of political theatre with their delayed entrance to the spring session of City Congress and the ostensive plea used to excuse the act, has ushered in a newfound spotlight for the query surrounding the idea of reinstating the position of sheriff. In a joint proposal, both Primogen Delson Coates of Clan Gangrel and Congressor Sir Maurice Humphrey of the Redcoats have formally put forward the advisory bill to suggest to Prince Hazel that a sheriff should be appointed to fulfill its traditional Camarilla role. It is expected to have broad appeal among both Primogen and Congressors, but quite a vocal opposition has been found within Primogen Jara Drahori of Clan Nosferatu. Her stance is that Boston's unique circumstances demand a more novel approach than what she calls a blunt tool that the sheriff represents. Knowing that not many will share her perspective, Jara has been incredibly proactive in meeting with congressors, with rumours of both favour and boons being offered if they were to vote against this bill. Many eyes are on the Primogen Council and City Congress, as the ramifications of this vote are expected to be profound. The summer 2025 advisory bill is the sheriff query. Its ethos are among the sect ideals, and if passed, a scenario will begin in which the kindred who will be granted the position of sheriff will be decided. All faction who voted nay in this vote will gain a trivial boon with the reduced scrutiny and long-term project action, and all factions gain +3 rep. To vote aye of this bill is Camarilla aligned. If this bill is tabled, however, all factions who voted nay in this vote will instead gain a major boon of the same actions: reduced scrutiny and long-term project. All factions who voted nay in this vote will also gain 2 ticks towards swaying the Primogen Jara Drahori, the Nosferatu Primogen, who is opposed to this vote. And if this bill is tabled, all factions gain 3 XP. So yes, this is the upcoming summer 2025 advisory bill to decide officially whether the Boston Camarilla needs the position of a sheriff fulfilled. If this vote is passed, a word there has been used which hasn't really been used in this game before: scenario. A scenario will take place. Scenarios are basically unique events which have unique mechanics associated with them to determine a narrative and a mechanical effect. So if this bill is passed, a unique scenario with its own mechanics associated with the game will begin to decide who will be selected to fulfill the sheriff role. But this bill needs to be passed first in order to kick off that process. There is a Nosferatu Primogen offering boons for coteries who vote against this bill, whether it passes or not. If it doesn't pass, the bill will only be a trivial boon. The boon will only be a trivial boon. But if it does pass, a major boon is being offered here. But I am aware of how popular the idea of a sheriff was among quite a few of you, and how politically entwined who to be the sheriff There's a lot riding on the idea of a sheriff for a lot of different reasons, for a lot of different coteries. So we shall see how that goes. And that brings us to an end to turn 9 of season 1. Thank you very much for watching. I look forward to catching up with those who are able to be in Elysium after this event. And I look forward to seeing all your RP. I'm curious to see what moves will be made, because that bill isn't going to be voted on in the next month, but it will be in the month of June, not the month of May, in the month of June. So you do in fact have a turn beforehand to do actions before this bill has to be voted on, in case you want to sneak in a sway Primogen and sway one of the Primogen in order to perhaps, I don't know, gain a vote, an extra vote in this bill, to change a vote to be something that it may not otherwise be. Just a suggestion. And you have a single turn to maybe pull that off if you do want to do that. Other than that, I hope you have a wonderful evening. I look forward to seeing your guys' RP, and I will see you in Elysium. Do take care.